Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Real Conspiracies. I'm your host, PJ Williams, and this is the podcast where we dive into the occult symbolism and hidden messages in your favorite movies, and sometimes video games, and sometimes TV shows. Jessye's joining me again, and we did a TV show. Was it the last time you were on, or one of the times you were on?
It was one of the times. I know we did the Gravity Falls and then Arrival.
We did Arrival before, yeah. And tonight we're covering the 2001 animated sci-fi adventure film produced by Walt Disney called Atlantis. And you suggested this one to me. I thought I'd seen this movie before we started the research, and I remembered hating it, and then I realized that I've never seen this movie.
I think that was the funniest part. Like, we started talking, and then you're like, wait, I've never seen this before. And I'm like, yeah, you would remember, especially once you get into it, because the art style, it's so memorable. So
yeah.
You would remember if you've seen it.
The reason I thought I'd seen this movie is I'd seen Treasure Planet once, and I did not like Treasure Planet. And I was 10 years old. I was on a flight, so I saw it on an in-air movie flight, Treasure Planet. I just remember not liking it. And I think the reason I got it confused, I don't remember when Treasure Planet came out. It was probably around the same time. It had to have been around the same time. The art style might be kind of similar, but like it's the big steampunk ship in both.
Right.
And I think that's what made me think I'd seen this movie, but I'd never seen it before.
Right. I like both of them. So
okay, well, 10-year-old me didn't like Treasure Planet.
It's probably because you were on a plane.
Probably. So we'll get into what this movie is. Like I said, it was 2001, came out, it was produced by Walt Disney. It was directed by Gary Trousdale and Kirk Wise. Mm-hmm. And they are most famous for doing The Hunchback of Notre Dame. So they're coming off The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And they say to Disney, hey, can we do our own thing that is not what you normally would have us do? And Disney kind of gave them a green light to go in a different direction. And when they started making this movie, it was the slogan was more explosions, less music, something like that, right? So
yeah, you know what? I don't think it had much music, did it?
Well, it had a really good soundtrack, but it had no songs. Right. There was no sing-along. This wasn't going to get turned into a Broadway musical, or at least not easily. I don't think it ever did, because this movie, even though it didn't tank the box office, it wasn't a very big success. Which, like, we can get into it now. We'll come back to that in a second. But like, I was the target audience when this movie came out. I was 10 years old. It was a movie for boys more than the girls. The girls got like Ariel and all Beauty and the Beast and all of that stuff. I think these guys worked on Beauty and the Beast as well. So they got all those musical numbers, and then it was like the inspiration for this was Indiana Jones and Star Wars. So again, like I'm the target audience when this movie comes out. Fans of Star Wars, fans of Indiana Jones. And I think if I have to guess why this didn't succeed, it's probably because I would have rather seen Indiana Jones. Like I even at 10 years old, I'm like, I would rather see the live action. And so I don't know. I just remember not being interested in seeing this. I will say I did like this a lot more than I thought I would. Watching it now.
I know, like rewatching it, I was like, no, I was able to pick out more from it, but like I still enjoyed it.
Right. Yeah. So this movie, it's got voices from people like Michael J. Fox, James Garner, Cree Summers, Leonard Nimoy, and Jim Varney, who recorded all of his lines except his very last line in the movie, because Jim Varney passed away, I think, from lung cancer before the movie was finished. So if people don't know, Jim Varney is Ernest. Like Ernest Goes to Camp and Ernest Goes to Prison, all those movies from the 90s. The plot summary for this movie is a young linguist named Milo Thatch joins an intrepid group of explorers to find the mysterious lost continent of Atlantis. Pretty short and sweet, but that's basically what it is. And like, did you think the pacing for this movie was a little weird, or is it just me?
I thought so. Like that. I would have liked a little bit more meat, because they made it seem, from if y'all haven't figured out by now, spoilers, but from where
we always get those comments at least once. Yeah, a lot of spoilers. We're going to break down all the symbolism. So a lot of spoilers.
Movie review. I don't know what they're thinking, but from where they crash until they get to Atlantis, it's a montage, and it feels really short. But I think it's over, I would assume, a couple days, if not like a week. It took them a long time from where they crashed to finding them it took time.
Well, like for me, the problem was that the movie is an hour and a half long. It's actually long for a Disney film. They had it much longer originally. They were going to go for 2 hours. I know the trailer for the movie that went out included scenes that also got cut. This movie was about 5 minutes longer, 5 to 10 minutes longer than most Disney films. And that was after they cut a ton of stuff out. But I was watching it again last night, taking more notes, and I realized that they're in Atlantis for one day, and it's less than 30 minutes of the movie. It's like less than a third of the movie takes place in Atlantis, and you've got this whole hour long like setup, and then this really like super duper 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 quick version of Pocahontas slash Avatar going on. Like it's kind of the same exact story as both of those, and it happens all like so quick. Like the whole thing between Milo and his girlfriend Kida is like, just the pacing's terrible is my point with that.
No, you're right though. Like I didn't actually look at the breakdown of like the time frames and stuff, but you're right. It was such a day and a night, which is kind of significant for the myth of Atlantis anyways.
Yeah. But we'll get into all the mythology stuff in a minute for sure.
Right. But it's such a short amount of time to build like a romantic relationship between these two. And I wouldn't have minded if it was longer.
Yeah. I think so too. I'm a weird person, and usually I think movies are too short. I think that everybody wants their movies to be really short, and I'm like, the pacing's just bad. So let's talk about production of this movie really quick. There's one thing that I have to bring up, and that is that the production designer of this movie was a guy named Mike Mignola, and he's the creator of Hellboy. And it's interesting because even though he wasn't the art director and he didn't have like overt control over everything in the movie, he brought the design over to them, kind of informed Disney on how to design characters and scenes and things like that. And he's known to draw heavily, especially if you've read or seen any of the Hellboy stuff, he's known to draw heavily from ceremonial magic, alchemical sigils, hermetic diagrams. Like he's a guy who's steeped in the occult and knows how to do it for things like Hellboy. So bringing him in is interesting because this movie has a whole lot of occult stuff. It has, we'll get into it in just a minute, but like you would think Plato, the movie opens with a quote from Plato.
Right.
But you can kind of see right away that this is way more Blavatsky. It's way more Edgar Cayce. It's way more Gnosticism. It's way more Theosophy. In fact, I couldn't find direct quotes from the people who made the movie, but a lot of articles were saying that this movie came out around, the internet's new and they're researching things, and the team was going directly for Theosophy concepts of Atlantis. They were going directly for Edgar Cayce stuff. So it's not hidden that this movie is based on a lot of deep occult stuff. But we'll come back to that in a second. This movie cost $120 million to make. It grossed $186 million worldwide, which doesn't sound like a flop for a Disney kids movie in Blockbuster in the summer. It's apparently not very good, but it was also up against Tomb Raider, which again, people like me were, 10-year-old boy was going to see Tomb Raider, and then Shrek, which is really hard to go up against.
So much bigger.
Yeah, Shrek was way bigger. So
which I didn't like Shrek.
I feel like McDonald's probably had the Atlantis toys, and like they had the whole promotional campaign.
You know what they did, because I remember getting a little crystal.
Oh, a little,
like because they have the little necklaces, and I remember me and my sister both got one in our Happy Meals.
Gotcha. Yeah. So this had the whole campaign, but it was up against bigger movies. It was different for what Disney was doing. The target audience was more boys instead of girls, and boys were probably going to see Tomb Raider or maybe going to see Shrek. The critics on Rotten Tomatoes give this movie a 48%, up against the audience, which gives it a 55%, so a little bit better. This movie's fared better recently. It feels like everybody likes this movie now in retrospect.
I think we've had time to get really bored with the traditional Disney storyline.
Yeah. Maybe it was just ahead of its time, trying to break outside of that traditional, Disney feel. And it's like it still had some of that, but it made me question if it actually was a Disney movie for a minute. Because I was like, is this actually Disney, or is this like a Fox production? I know that you and me talked about doing Anastasia before this. And I watched Anastasia thinking my whole life that Anastasia was a Disney movie. And it's not. And then I watched this, I'm like, is this also Fox like Anastasia was? It's kind of different, but no, this is actually Disney.
Right.
Critical consensus on Rotten Tomatoes says Atlantis provides a fast-paced spectacle, but stints on such things as character development and a coherent plot. I wouldn't even say that's the problem per se.
No.
Character development a little bit. Pacing was the big thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was fast-paced, that's what kind of messed it up for me. I wanted more meat. I
also wouldn't say the plot was incoherent. I would say it was lacking. It just had very little plot. It was very, very thin. So
yeah, it's just like, oh, there we go. We found Atlantis.
Yeah, it wasn't like confusing or contradicting. It was just like not hardly there. This movie came out to mixed reviews. Roger Ebert gave this a 3.5 stars out of 4. And he said, quote, "The story of Atlantis is rousing in an old pulp science fiction sort of way, but the cinematic scene transcends the rest and stands by itself as one of the great animated action sequences." But Todd McCarthy over at Variety had a more negative review. He said Disney pushes into all talking, no singing, no dancing, and in the end, no fun animated territory.
So somebody that really just likes the music.
Yeah, somebody who just really wanted another Disney musical.
Well, maybe do you think that they went like too far from like an obnoxious amount of songs to no songs at all?
I think this movie would suck if it had songs. I
can't
really
see
do.
where it would fit.
I can't see how they would fit into the tone or the pace. It would just, I don't know. I think it would have ruined it. It probably would have done better at the box office with the songs. Maybe. Who knows? But I just can't see this movie with the songs. Before we get into the occult territory that this movie is very steeped in, I wanted to just kind of point out like some themes that I caught. And I don't know if you caught these, but like the most overt theme in this, besides the occult stuff, besides the Theosophy and all of that and the crystal new age stuff, is just this like anti-capitalist thing. Did you catch this with the movie?
Oh yeah, like when they first get there.
Well, yeah, I mean, but right from the beginning of the movie, you've got Milo and he's working at this museum, and when he comes out to the board of directors, all these people, they're literally dressed like the capitalist pigs from like, Animal Farm. Like they're very much Orwellian capitalists of 1914, right?
Right.
And it starts off there, and then it becomes, like, oh well, Milo, he wants to find spirituality, and these wonderful native indigenous people, they're all about spirituality, even though they've lost it and don't speak their own language and some other weird stuff that made no sense. That's the incoherent plot part. They've got all that going on, and then one of the funniest lines in the movie is James Garner's character gets called a mercenary. He says, "No, I'm an adventure capitalist." So you've got the capitalist pigs in the museum, you've got the adventure capitalists, you've got all these people who are, going after money and stuff like that. Rourke, even the name that James Garner's character, a lot of people think was named after Howard Rourke from Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead. So he's, based off of the kind of Ayn Randian selfishness principle.
Right.
So there's a lot of like overt capitalism, bad stuff at the time where, the whole Bolshevik revolution is starting to happen. And other than that, the other main theme, without even getting to the occult exactly, is just kind of like new age spiritualism. Like,
oh yeah, I mean,
stuff. It's kind of like capitalism versus spiritualism.
Right.
Weird kind of communist bug eating indigenous people versus the evil American capitalists at the beginning of World War I or something like that.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It was a little overt. Like it was like really on the nose, but
it was like just showing it, because like my idea is like when they actually get permission to stay there, and then they're just going around kind of like everything is everybody's. Like, yeah, that's their house, but we're going to share food here. And
yeah.
It's like that, the ideal version.
Right. So the foundations for the story, as I was saying earlier, the team says that they based their stuff off of Plato. They based their stuff off Theosophy. They based their stuff off of Edgar Cayce. And I just kind of want to go through the foundations of this before we get into what happens in the movie, because I think understanding the inspiration makes the rest of the movie make sense. So obviously the tale of Atlantis, its oldest iteration comes from Plato in 360 BC from the writings Timaeus and Critias.
Right.
And, the movie opens up with this quote: "In a single day and night of misfortune, the island of Atlantis disappeared into the depths of the sea." And there's one other like really interesting nod to Plato. Originally, they were going to give Milo like a pet squirrel or something. I can't remember what it was. A pet rat, maybe, that was going to be named Plato, and they just cut it from the movie.
They did give him a pet cat, though.
For like a second, but I think the rat was supposed to be like on his shoulder through the whole
time.
Yeah, it was going to be like a whole gimmick. Like Disney's done it a million times where you've got the little pet that goes along with you. And, they're just like, look, we're trying to make something that's not normal Disney, so we're going to get rid of the pet rat named Plato. But the most interesting nod to Plato's work, because I don't think most of this is based on Plato. I think, that's where the original concept comes from. But the most interesting nod is he's going through his book, The Shepherd's Journal, throughout and he notices a missing page. And most famously with Timaeus and Critias, the story that we get of Atlantis, we don't have the whole thing. It cuts off literally mid-sentence because we're missing part of the page. We're missing the rest of the story.
I didn't realize that.
I thought it was pretty cool.
That was pretty cool.
An interesting nod.
I mean, that's a more subtle nod, but I like it.
Yeah. Did you have any other notes on Plato and the influence on this movie from him before I get into Blavatsky?
Kind of. Like, I was looking at multiple sources, and one that I found interesting was that it was like, it kind of had like a family story with Plato from his mom's side. According to this one article, it was passed down from Sloane in 594 BC from a priest of Nith, the Egyptian version of Athena. Mm-hmm. And they thought with Plato, with the way he was telling it, it was more about trying to show people issues with countries fighting. Like, Atlantis was always fighting Athens, and then that goes into like Greek mythology, and it's a whole rabbit hole that we can touch on.
I think it's interesting with the Plato stuff. I know in this movie they specifically didn't go with Greek columns and Greek architecture. They didn't want to go with the whole Greek thing. But like, as many people that criticize that, and they're like, "Oh, they were trying to get away from the Plato thing." Well, that's true for multiple reasons. First of all, Plato doesn't say that they're Greek exactly. He says he got the story from the Egyptians, and that it came from a much earlier civilization, a pre-flood civilization, and that it was kind of a worldwide culture before the flood. So that's Plato already. So he's not even saying just because Plato's Greek doesn't mean he's saying the Atlanteans are Greek. He does use Greek gods to tell the story, and makes it allegorical or whatever. But supposedly he got this from the Egyptians, who got it from the antediluvian people somehow. So
with the antediluvian part of it, it goes to the idea of a green Sahara where there used to be like jungle and water, and there was actual vegetation in the Sahara Desert. And that kind of goes with Jimmy Corsetti's idea of where Atlantis could have been if it was real, which is the rickshaw structure. And it goes with Plato's description of Atlantis, is it like
10 concentric rings of water and land and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes. And that kind of goes with this idea of 10 is repeated in Plato's take on Atlantis, along with some of the things that I noticed in the movie.
Yeah, let's come back to that. So remember 10, everybody, because 10 keeps coming back throughout this thing. But yeah, 10 rings of water, 10 rings of land, 10 kings. There's a whole thing there with Plato. But I think that even though, this is where the myth of Atlantis originates, I think that Atlantis is talking about something real. I think it's talking about antediluvian people and Nephilim people and all of that stuff. But where they go from there, and where the movie takes most of its inspiration, honestly, is not from Plato. It's from people like Blavatsky. And it starts with this idea that Blavatsky put out about the root races. Have you heard about this?
No.
So the root races, she says there's 5 root races, and then there's 2 to come in the future, something like that. So the first root race was the Polarians. They were ethereal, transparent, asexual reproduction. Like these are the angels, essentially, right? These are the first people. After that, you get the Hyperborean race. They start to become more physical, but they're still largely ethereal. They start developing rudimentary bones and organs. After this, you get the Lemurians, and they're the first fully physical people. They have the lost continent of Lemuria. but they're hermaphroditic and they have a third eye. So this is actually calling back to Plato. The Platonic idea is that men and women were one, 8-limbed being that, split in half. This is where the idea of soulmates comes from. It literally comes from Plato. That's where we get the Platonic, things like that. So the idea that, when we were Lemurians, we were all hermaphroditic, 3-eyed, 8-legged freaks who split off. We have to find our soulmate. Like that's the whole idea of Plato. That's where Blavatsky's kind of getting this idea of Lemuria. I've talked about lemurs and Lemurians recently on Dark Ocean with like the ideas of Nick Land and reaching out to the lemurs, the Lemurians for his inspiration. So after the Lemurians, you get the Atlanteans. This is the peak of physical development. This is where they start moving away from spirituality. And then you get the current race. This is a familiar race you've probably heard of, the Aryan race. This comes from Blavatsky.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've listened to so much stuff from Blavatsky where people try to say that Hitler took her concept of the Aryans and twisted it. Even though she says in her own words, some races are, quote, missing the divine spark and could never, quote, raise some human specimens to that level. So she was pretty clear that some people alive today are not of the Aryan race. And even though the Aryan race is a lesser race than the Atlanteans and Lemurians, the Hyperboreans, that the Aryan race is going to be the one that has the Gnostic divine spark, and that they are going to move forward and become more spiritual again. And her writings on Atlantis are about how they were really spiritual and they, developed war and they misused all of their power, and that, we're going to become spiritual again. And we've got this whole, what is that thing called in the Yuga cycle, the whole Yuga cycle thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's her idea. So Hitler took that idea, and people say that he twisted it, but I'm not going to go into it. But he didn't really twist it. Like Blavatsky was for people who don't know, Helena Blavatsky was a Russian mystic. She's the creator of Theosophy. She's a literal Satanist who says that Lucifer was, the light bringer who gave us the knowledge of good and evil in the garden. He's the good guy actually in that whole thing. So like Blavatsky is where we get all of modern occultism, New Age, Theosophy. New Age grew out of Theosophy, all of that stuff. So that's who Blavatsky is. And she, with her, some people are Aryan and have the divine spark and other people are a lesser race and need to be exterminated, is actually directly from her. But she also talked about crystals. This movie's got so much about crystals. And the crystal thing, when I first saw it, I was like, because I hadn't done the research on Atlantis with Edgar Cayce and Blavatsky in a long time. I was like, is the crystal thing just like this New Age thing, or is that like in the lore? And it's in the lore going all the way back to Blavatsky. In her book, The Secret Doctrine of 1888, she wrote, quote, the Atlanteans had control over the elements, and their cities were illuminated by the radiance of the firestones. These were the crystals of great power, which they used to means of sound and vibration. Another quote from that book, she says, the Atlanteans became a nation of sorcerers. The misuse of the firestones called down the great cataclysm. That's quite directly the plot of this movie.
Yeah, pretty much. Like that's literally like the opening scene. Like after you get the quote from Plato, it just shows it sinking.
We'll come right back to that. I'm just going to talk about Edgar Cayce really quick. So Edgar Cayce, also, have you ever heard of this guy? He's like the sleeping prophet.
No.
As a teenager, like this angel type thing came to him and it said, hey, you can learn all the secrets of the universe if you just go to sleep. And then he would start like putting books out on his desk and falling asleep on them. And he'd wake up with this knowledge. And, he took Blavatsky's ideas and popularized them. So he took the idea of the Akashic records and being able to go to sleep and access them is kind of his whole thing of prophecy. So he would go into these trances, these sleep trances, and people would write down what he said. And he would often sleep and dream about Atlantis and tell stories of what he was seeing from the Akashic records about Atlantis. And he talked about how there's a giant 8-sided crystal that's set in a temple and it distributes power across the whole continent. He says, quote, a Tunai stone or firestone, a great crystal of many facets, set so that the rays of the sun and the stars passed through it, providing the means of power for heat, light, and motivating forces for the crafts of the Atlanteans. So he talks in a really weird way, translating. This is like a translation of how he talks, because from what I understand is he would go into these and he would basically talk like Yoda, which makes me wonder if Yoda is like based on Edgar Cayce to some degree, because he would do all that like weird backwards Yoda talk stuff.
Yoda's another episode, but
maybe I'll talk about Edgar Cayce if I ever cover Star Wars.
Oh my god, so you could do so many things on Star Wars, but I'm just thinking it sounds more like possession than like sleeping, especially with the backwards talk. And there was something else I was going to say.
Well, it was like possession because he would speak with different dialect and different everything than how he talked in real life. Yeah, like he wouldn't speak like himself when he was in these trances.
Yeah, no, that's a red flag.
Right. So he's the one who really took the crystal idea and made it a big thing. He said the crystals would heat and cool Atlantis. They were just, big HVAC unit of crystals. They would generate power. They would propel flying machines. This is where we literally get the flying machines idea with Atlantis. The flying machines would shoot lasers based on the crystals. It's all in the movie that we're about to cover. They would transmit information that people would wear personalized crystals around their neck that would heal them and make them live a long time. So like all of this stuff from the movie. I feel like I just explained the whole movie between what Blavatsky and Edgar Cayce.
You did. It was just like it was just a copy and paste.
It basically is, but I'm not sure the team behind this movie was that creative because they got sued. No, they were gonna get sued by a Japanese movie that was like scene for scene this movie, and I forgot to write it in my notes. Oh, no. But the Japanese anime that they basically ripped everything off from literally said we're not going to sue Disney because we'll lose. So there's no point.
Because it's Disney.
I think Disney settled with them outside of court. If you've seen the movie Stargate with Kurt Russell, that's also the same exact plot as this movie. And then Stargate had the TV show that spun off recently into Stargate Atlantis. So there's kind of a lot of Stargate stuff stolen, put into this movie as well.
So many Portal references
Blavatsky,
lately.
Edgar Cayce, Stargate, some Japanese anime. Throw it all together with the Hellboy's director and a bunch of Disney money, and that's how you get Atlantis, the movie. Yeah, so the last thing I want to say about Edgar Cayce is he also said the Atlanteans tuned the crystals improperly. That they tuned them for the use of war, and this is what led to instability and their downfall. That basically the vibrations off of the crystal, this is all new agey stuff. The vibrations off of the crystals were tuned the wrong way and the chakras didn't, but that whole thing. And like, it basically caused earthquakes. It caused Atlantis to crumble and fall and die. And that's kind of where the movie starts. So I want to just get into the movie. We'll just go through it. We'll talk about the things that we noticed, the symbolism that pops out, but it literally starts with Atlantis being destroyed. And it starts with, they're running away because the Atlanteans were starting war. It's kind of like implied, but you get a little bit more of this from the king later. But it's kind of implied that they were starting war, that they were using the crystal technology to wage war, which is Edgar Cayce's concept. And as they're flying back, I think one guy said, yells at someone else, like, this is your fault. Like, what we did with the crystals is why we're about to be destroyed.
Right.
So straight from Edgar Cayce. We also... And stop me at any point if you have something to add. But we also get our first view of Atlantis. It's the 10 concentric rings kind of concept, but at the center there's a pyramid. Because again, this came from Egyptians. It came from an older culture. A lot of people believe this is why the Egyptians and the Mayans and all these people have pyramidal structures, because they all came from this antediluvian pre-flood time.
You mean kind of like the Tower of Babylon?
We're going to come back to the Tower of Babel because that is one of the most overt, mentions. There's so much blasphemy in this movie.
So much.
We'll come back to that. So you got the center with the pyramid and the all-seeing eye above the pyramid, and while they're being destroyed, this is what threw me is I had never seen this movie. I kind of knew what to expect from talking to you, but then there's a UFO, almost exactly literally a UFO that comes out of nowhere and just tractor beams up Kita's mom from her arms. Mm-hmm. And I just thought it was weird that there's connecting the UFO stuff with ancient alien stuff and ancient, Atlantean stuff, which this is 2001. I keep finding more ancient astronaut theory, ancient alien stuff in older movies than I thought was there, because that was not a popular concept.
Well, it's not popular, so you have to hide it and stuff.
Right, but they were priming the public for this for a really long time.
Yes, they were.
Yeah. Did you notice anything else about the opening scene with Atlantis before we move on to Washington, D.C.?
Oh, Washington. The opening scene, it targeted a royal bloodline.
Right.
It went after the female, not the king. It took the queen. And it was the crystal that powered Atlantis.
Right.
That gained consciousness, and we'll circle back to that too. But it mostly that it's not only bringing ancient astronaut theory in, but also the divine feminine.
It's got the whole, the divine feminine is explicit later in the movie, but it shows it. You don't know what it is at first because it just seems like a UFO abducting Kita's mom.
It's just like, ooh, that one.
It is Sophia and Gnosticism and the divine feminine. It's all in there. We'll circle back to that, like you said. We'll go Jehssye on that. We'll circle back to it. The next thing we get is Washington, D.C. The year is 1914. This might be one of the only Disney movies that gives you a year,
right,
which I found interesting. They tell you it's 1914, which is interesting because this is the start of World War I. Mm-hmm. We get a lot of kind of World War I, even almost kind of World War II imagery. Fascinating enough, I wasn't going to bring this up, but one of the guns that is used in this movie by the Mole Man is literally a gun from World War II. And there's like there's like Nazi stuff in this movie. And it's like, this is the first day of World War I, and they're throwing in like Nazi imagery and World War II weapons, which I found really odd.
I think this is why I get the two confused, because I'm always like, I'll reference World War I versus II, and then I have to ask, like, if I'm talking to Ian, I'll ask him, or I'll ask my dad. I'm like, wait, which World War was that? Because not only in this movie, but a lot of them kind of mesh the two together, even though they were two very different causes.
This one does that. This one does that a little bit. And again, it's DC in 1914. And the only people we get besides like when you go into the opening scene of the museum, it's just the bourgeoisie. It's the top hat wearing fat capitalists and their, snooty wives. And it's like the decadence. And it's very anti-capitalist from the very opening scene. You've got this indigenous people that, maybe they were using crystals to nuke their neighbors, but they're the good guys. Don't worry about that. Right. And America is the bad guys in World War I for some reason. So we get that imagery in there. And then we get Milo Thatch. We were introduced to Michael J. Fox's character. He's giving a speech to a bunch of dummies, we find out, about why he should get the funding from the museum to go and search for Atlantis. And he says, it's a really quick speech. I had to pause it down and watch it a few times because he's throwing up images and concepts and ideas so fast. But what he says is that Atlantis had very advanced technology. They had electricity, they had advanced medicine, they had the power of flight. And while he's doing this, he's showing symbols. He's showing the Vitruvian Man, which is the idea of man perfected. He's showing the radiant star, which is a Freemason symbol, which symbolizes the ability to govern and discipline oneself by reason and good judgment. And we get the all-seeing eye, which is the human journey towards enlightenment. We get the eye of providence. We get all these symbols thrown in there, one after the other, about how the people who were punished by God in the flood were the good. It's the Nephilim agenda, right? It's the Nephilim Luciferian agenda. Man can be perfected. We can govern ourselves. And, we serve some grand architect that Albert Pike literally told us is Lucifer. Because this movie's so full. This movie,
it is.
I don't say Freemasonry as like a catch-all term for all types of occult. This movie's very specifically Freemasonry coded.
Yeah.
Throughout. Some movies I would say it's more like Rosicrucian or just general Gnostic stuff or Cathars. This movie, from beginning to end, is Freemason coded, including the credits, which have a lot of Freemasonic symbolism, like the compass and the square and tragedy masks and all of this Freemasonic symbolism throughout the credits. But right in the beginning, it's here's all the things the Freemasons love. Here's their star, their eye of providence, and the Vitruvian Man. All the things that symbolize that they can perfect man, separating themselves, the enlightened from the profane, is another thing that happens in this movie. Anything else with Milo here? I want to talk about the illuminated text thing.
Illuminated text. Just classic orphan, nobody to really guide him, and he's kind of just figuring it out as he goes. So there's no paternal figure in his life. The only person had passed away, and now he's just kind of navigating on his own. So there's that searching for something to fill the gap.
Which is like every Disney movie, by the way. I was looking up a thing. I didn't leave this article up, but it was like how every Disney movie is the same. And it was like, it's an orphan that has this and that and the other. And it's like the same. This one carries on those same Disney tropes of the orphan who needs Disney to, enlighten them on the world.
Right. No, exactly.
Walt Disney, who is a 33rd degree Freemason and supporter of Hitler and a Theosophist. Which makes this movie make more sense, even though Walt Disney's dead by this point. I think it was Roy Disney was still in charge at this point before it became, Bob Iger and whoever. But while he's going through this speech, he brings up this text. He says, "I got this from an illuminated text." And when I heard that, I'm like, illuminated, is that just like Illuminati? Is that what the Freemasons call like secret texts? Apparently, illuminated text is a handwritten book that's decorated with gold, silver, and vibrant colors. And this was a practice from the medieval period. So it still would be like a text that is believed to hold secret knowledge. And that's why I was put up with all his gold and silver and stuff like that. And he talked about this thing called the Shepherd's Journal, which I couldn't find a real world, like one-for-one comparison of if this was based on anything in particular. But because I did think this was like the first time that we get like a twisting of biblical ideas. The shepherd, this is the Shepherd's Journal. Christ is the shepherd. Mm-hmm. So we get that kind of twisting that happens a lot more in this movie when it comes to like Leviathan and some other stuff. But what did you have any thoughts on this illuminated text, the Shepherd's Journal, that concept that's brought up in the beginning?
Not really. More like just kind of that search for forbidden knowledge. Like he's grasping at straws because that's what his grandpa, who raised him in place of his parents, because why not? It's what his grandpa was obsessed with, so he's picking up on that to continue on.
His grandpa is a Freemason, by the way, and I'll prove it in a minute. We'll come back to that. But it's the search for enlightenment. It's the search for the forbidden knowledge. So he's talking about this, illuminated text. I had a note here that a lot of people think that Milo might be based on Tesla.
Yeah.
In looks a little bit, but like I found a quote from Tesla is interesting, and it's about crystals of all things. Tesla literally says, "In crystal, we have pure evidence. We have pure evidence of the existence of a formative life principle, and though we cannot understand the life of a crystal, it is nonetheless a living being." So some people think that Milo is based off of Tesla because of looks a little bit, and because of like his links to ideas of crystals and forbidden knowledge and the 369 principle and all that stuff.
Right.
It's not a strong one, but I thought I'd bring it up.
Right.
I'm not sure he's based on Tesla, but maybe. We have him translating this text. This is the most interesting thing to me. Like, he's translating this text, and instantly I'm like, this is really dumb. Like, he's like, oh, we all thought it was Ireland, but this letter R actually translates to C, and it's Iceland. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is not how linguistics works. Like, ancient texts didn't call it Iceland or Ireland. Those are modern words for it. And why would an old text have a one-for-one translation letter to letter? That's not how translations work. But there is one occult translation that works exactly like that. And it's called Enochian. And I'm going to show you guys this on the screen. This is the Enochian alphabet. And as you can see, A, B, C, they all have direct translations. 26 characters of the Enochian alphabet. The Enochian alphabet was revealed to the world by the occultist John Dee and Edward Kelly in the 16th century. It's supposed to be the language of creation. This is supposed to be the language of the angels. And they've got this whole Enochian text, Enochian magic. I'm not going to go super deep into who John Dee is, but just very famous occultist, Hellfire Club, that whole thing. And a lot of people think that he was a huckster because this language is way too conveniently, this means A, and if you translate Enochian language, it translates into English for some reason, which, again, doesn't make any sense. But the movie does the same thing. And in the Atlantis movie, there's this guy named Mark Orkrand. He was the creator of the Klingon language. And he designed Atlantean to be quote, the Tower of Babel language, that the supposed root from all other languages descended. And even though it's 8,000 years later, it supposedly perfectly translates letter for letter into English words for Iceland and Ireland and other things. So it's really kind of ridiculous. But if you look at side by side Atlantean language and Enochian language and understand they're both supposed to be the language from creation, from before the flood, and that they directly, like, I think that Mark Orkran might have been basing Atlantean off of Enochian, but I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
The letter P in Enochian looks like the Omega symbol.
It is the Omega symbol. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's totally original.
John Dee was not super original.
Totally original.
I like how B looks like C in Enochian and D looks like X. It's just kind of jumbled around. Yeah. It's not
M is W.
M is W. H is M. Z is P. I mean, it's, X is R. It's just weird.
U and V are the same.
They are. Yeah. So that's.
Sorry, I'm being way too obvious about this. Like, no, it's not right.
I'm just saying, like, do people really believe that John Dee found the language of the angels and just happens to be exactly this way? I find that funny. But what's interesting is this movie's got they made Atlantean literally translatable. And this movie has Atlantean written everywhere. And I spent a lot of time trying to find if they wrote like weird secret hidden messages in the background that you could translate from Atlantean to English. And it's kind of no. Like one of the messages is eat fish. One of them is you have too much time on your hands, which is just hilarious. And then a lot of it's just gibberish. I found this article where it's like taking all of these things and translating them into, what they would really be. And it's like he RD Sheeran good as B13S. It's stuff like that. It's like it actually is gibberish. So as much time as they put into literally creating a language for this movie, and I don't just mean a written language, they created like a verbal language when Kida and the king are speaking Atlantean. It's like a real language.
Right.
Just like the guy who made Klingon made this language. The people who animated it, they didn't really spend a lot of time putting anything decipherable into the background other than a couple of jokes. I would be that
nerd that would do that, though. I would totally make random sentences just to throw in there.
I would. I think it's hilarious. Like I said, the ones that people point out is eat fish and you have too much time on your hands. Like those are pretty funny. So
right. I'm just looking at all of them.
But did you notice, if we go back to this, like the A, this is the thing that everybody wants to talk about, this A that's written in the Atlantean language. This is on the Shepherd's Journal.
Right.
This is in the water at the beginning of the movie. This is behind the king's head. This is on every pillar. Mm-hmm. Like the A is literally everywhere. And I've got a bigger picture of it here. This is the A. And I just want to ask you before I talk about this, like, what does that look like to you? If you had to say, like, is this based on a symbol? Like, what is it based on?
So one, like, just looking at it, it's kind of like an eye,
EYEI, yeah.
Yeah. And then it kind of looks like the pedophile thing.
That's what everybody says, right? So yes, on one hand, it looks like the Eye of Providence. In fact, Rourke later, literally, it transposes over his eye. It's one eye symbolism.
Right.
It's the one eye of Providence Freemason symbol, right? Mm-hmm. But it does kind of look like the triangular pedophile symbol. And I want to show this. Right. I'm not sure that it is. So here's the FBI document. This is the boy lover logo, right, as declassified by the FBI. And if you read it, it says that it is a small blue spiral shaped like a triangle surrounded by a larger triangle, whereas the smaller triangle represents a small boy and the larger triangle represents an adult man. That's what that symbol means.
I don't like that.
I don't either, but I'm just pointing out, like, the reason I don't know if this is that in particular is because a couple of reasons. It's facing the wrong way.
Right.
It looks way more like the Eye of Providence. It's kind of maybe triangular here, but it's not really a triangle nested in another triangle. Symbols have meaning.
Yeah.
So it does look like it, the pizza logo, the whole thing. But the biggest reason I'm not sure that's actually what it is and that it maybe is just the Eye of Providence is that Disney's not subtle about putting this in their movies. If we just go through, like, this is, I don't even know what movie this is. This is Chief Zephyr from Elena of Avalor. It's like literally all over this lion's face, the exact boy lover symbol. In what is Little Giants, it's literally on the side of this guy's helmet. The worst one is this movie Flight of the Navigator, which like nobody's ever seen except I have, from 1986. The voice of the ship, of the UFO that this kid gets into, is Pee Wee Herman, voices the ship. Oh. And then he steps into Pee Wee Herman's ship on a staircase made of boy lover logos. Like, that's overt. Here's Simba with the symbol. Here's Baloo with the symbol, and that's a whole other weird thing because it's a boy on top of a bear, and that also has its own pedophile symbol. And then Adventures of Pan, interactive book for children. Like, they're not subtle about the symbol, and it's always very specifically this triangle within a triangle symbol, as you can see over and over and over again in Disney properties. So when I see this, I think more it's probably more the Eye of Providence. Maybe it's got a dual meaning, but it's not a one for one.
It's not one for one. It has a lot of people are recognizing the triangles in it, so it might have kind of a reference to it, but it
might be a little bit of both, but I think it's more.
I think it leans more towards the eye because there's a lot of eye symbolism in it too,
which is still an occult symbol. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying Disney's not subtle about putting boy lover logos all over their movies. So when this one's not really it, I don't know. Make of it what you will. I don't know if it's that. I'm not making an excuse for Disney. As I said, they put it everywhere. I'm just not sure that that's what this one is. So
no, and then I tried to do like my own little research on the symbolism for like the triangle and the spiral, and nothing was coming up.
Right.
And like when you look up triangle symbolism, it's balance, harmony, completion.
Well, we know from Albert Pike, right? The Freemasons love to put out their bullshit stuff to the public and then have their deeper stuff to the elect, the elite, to the 33rd degree Masons. Right. So sometimes when I say this is what it means, it's like, this is the best guess I have, unless you're getting it from Albert Pike or someone who's kind of spilling the tea at a higher level.
Right.
Like, they say the Eye of Providence is the eye of the grand architect that watches over us and blah, 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 right? It's definitely more Eye of Sauron than, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Definitely more Eye of Sauron. But that whole thing. I said his grandfather was a Freemason. So did you notice the picture right after he does this whole thing and he looks at the Shepherd's Journal and he's giving his fake speech? He pulls up a picture of his grandfather. Mm-hmm. And you'll notice his belt buckle has upside down crossed keys on it.
I didn't look at his belt buckle.
His belt buckle has cross keys on it. Now, if they're facing upwards, those cross keys are a Catholic symbol, which mean papal authority. They believe it symbolizes St. Peter standing at heaven's gates. When they're facing downwards, it's a Freemasonic symbol, and they are facing downwards in this movie. It's a Freemasonic symbol that stands for the union of opposites and the unlocking of spiritual knowledge. So it is the pillars of Joachim and Boaz coming together and unlocking spiritual knowledge. That's directly from a Freemasonic website, actually multiple Freemasonic websites and blogs, telling you exactly what that symbol means, the upside down crossed keys. And that's exactly what his grandfather's wearing on his belt buckle. So we get the first idea that his grandfather is a Freemason, that his best friend is also a Freemason, and we'll come to in a second. Very next thing that happens is he gets a telegram saying that he has a meeting at 3:30, which I just thought 33.
Right.
I don't know. Not making a big deal of it, but do you have
but
anything
they
more?
do like 33.
They do love to put 33 in everything. Especially with how like much symbolism there is in this movie. Like, it might be a stretch, but it's always 3:30 or 30. It's not. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I could see how some people would say that's a stretch. I don't think it is.
No.
So we get the 33, and then we go to, I'm skipping a scene where he gets recruited by is she supposed to be German, the hot blonde chick? The femme fatale?
I guess. I mean, they don't really say.
I think she's supposed to be. It doesn't matter. She's not bad. She's just drawn that way.
It wasn't her choice.
Jessica Rabbit quote. So we get her recruiting Milo, and then they go to Preston Whitmore's mansion. Right. And in his mansion, I mean, it looks like a lodge. It looks like a Freemasonic lodge. It's got the pillars everywhere. And then there's this painting over the fireplace where he's wearing Scottish garb and he's got the Masonic apron on it. He comes across like the Masonic benefactor, the hidden master of the movie. He acts as the gatekeeper for the hidden truth. He pulls Milo from the profane into the mystery. He is the Freemasonic benefactor. That's just who he is. And we know from the symbol on his best friend, Milo's grandfather's belt buckle, that his grandfather was a Freemason. So his best friend would also be Freemason. He has the lodge. Did you notice the fish in the tank?
Yeah, the ones that were supposed to be extinct that were recently rediscovered.
Yeah, did you want to talk about that for a second? I thought that was kind of interesting.
I didn't even look up that. I just know that as a random fact because I love ocean life and I like space stuff. But there was...
Well, that's why I knew you did, so... But the coelacanth. The coelacanth was supposed to be extinct, and then we found it in the 1930s. So this is 1914, so it's showing that he has hidden knowledge.
He already knows that it's still there.
Right, yeah. So I thought that was a nice little interesting nod. The other thing that I can't get over is that there's always weird sex stuff between the master and the initiate. There's always some type of sexual ritual. And in this one, they literally, again, this is in a kid's movie, which is why this is so weird. They literally have Preston Whitmore do a handstand upside down, expose himself to Milo. And it's just so weird. Like, why?
Right, because he was doing yoga.
Yeah.
And then he did the handstand and stuff. So
his whole thing falls down. It's very clear that he's like Milo's face to peen in this shot.
Yeah, and you can tell Milo's extremely uncomfortable by it too.
Right.
But they don't care.
It's just like in a kid's movie, you've got this old man exposing himself to the initiate in this weird kind of like upside down sex ritual, and then just move on from that. Like it's just
right, like really you just breeze right past it.
Freaking weird thing, right?
Right.
Yeah. So as he's bringing Milo into the mystery, he gives him the Shepherd's Journal. It's not just a picture of the Shepherd's Journal that Milo believed was out there in Iceland, I think, instead of Ireland, but he actually gives it to him. And again, on the cover is that spiral logo. And then we get the ship. We go on the ship, which is the Lewis and Clark, who are also famous Freemasons. Found that interesting. I'm kind of skipping over some things. So was there anything more between Preston Whitmore and like Leviathan that you wanted to talk about? Because that's like the next big thing.
Not Leviathan, but he confirmed what I think really grabs Milo in agreeing to go on the expedition is he confirmed where they found the Shepherd's Journal.
Right.
That it was where he thought it was. And I think that level of like trust or revealing of that knowledge and confirming his beliefs just pulled him in deeper.
Right. So the Leviathan thing, I know you had some notes on this.
Yes.
They go into the water. He starts reading the book. He talks about Leviathan. I find this one line super weird because Milo is convinced that there are ancient knowledge, ancient illuminated texts that tell us about mysterious flying crafts and people who could live 8,000 years, and that's not a problem to him.
Right.
When he's asked about Leviathan, he has the Shepherd's Journal that tells him Leviathan is real.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, well, the Bible talks about Leviathan, but it's probably just a myth.
Yeah, like just brushing it off.
Like that's the thing you have a hard time believing is like that there's a giant sea monster that the Bible talked about. Like it's just making the Bible. It's telling you the Bible is a bad source, that it's not an illuminated source like the Shepherd's Journal. It's too widespread into the public, and it's not secret enough for the mystery schools to grasp on. I just found that line really odd for Milo's character.
It bothers me so much.
Because Indiana Jones wouldn't even do that. And those movies are Gnostic as hell, but Indiana Jones would look at the Bible in a different way and be like, oh, it is an illuminated secret text with hidden stuff in it. Like, that's how Indiana Jones covers that stuff. I'm not agreeing with it. But, like, Milo's just like, yeah, I don't believe in the Bible, though. Like, I don't believe in Leviathan. Well, except the Shepherd's Journal says there's a Leviathan, so now I do. Like, that was a weird line just because it didn't make any sense.
Well, and it's like you said, they're trying to discredit the Bible.
Right.
Even though...
While crediting Freemasonic texts.
Mm-hmm. Well,
even when they agree, the Bible's still wrong. Like, that's why the line was so weird to me.
No, exactly. And I think that was the whole point. But Leviathan... in Hebrew, I'm not going to try to pronounce it because I don't need that kind of pressure. But it comes, the meaning is to twist, turn, wind, or coil. So it comes across more as like a serpent than how they portray it in the movie. Because they did like the steampunk version, they made it like mechanical and it shoots lasers. But it gives off more serpent and dragon features. And if you want, I can read a description of how it was described in the Bible, because I found
go ahead, because he quotes the beginning of that verse. It's Job 41:9 or something like that.
Yeah, so this is, if I remember correctly, I think this is all from Job, but I would have to go back and jump. But basically, it says, however, just as the behemoth, the detailed description of Leviathan shows the real creature being spoken of, and this is a little excerpt from a website, he cannot be captured by fishhook, 41:1. Weapons are ineffective against him, 41:7. No human can tame him, 41:8. His body is impenetrable, 41:13 through 17. His teeth are sharp, verse 14. His back is made out of rows of shields that are so closely joined together that nothing can penetrate his skin, verse 15 through 17. He is exceptionally strong, verse 22. He raises up the mighty, and the mighty are afraid. Not a single weapon can harm him. That's repeated a lot.
Well, yeah. Job is very poetic too, and I think it skipped over the 41:9. I think was the verse that Milo quotes about it breathing fire, essentially. So you've got like these scales that are close together. It twists and turns about. It breathes fire. It's a dragon. It's a sea dragon.
Right. And one of my favorites is what people like to say. When he moves along the banks of the river, he leaves marks in the mud, and then people are like, "Oh, it's a crocodile."
Right. Like, crocodiles breathe fire and all that stuff. For
totally.
Sure. Yeah, so we get Milo talking about this. They go with the, like you said, the steampunk version. The Atlanteans created it as a guardian, so that's interesting. What I found interesting about Leviathan is that there's another reference to Leviathan besides the Bible, and it's an ancient Mesopotamian text. It's called the Baal cycle, and in this, Baal defeats Lotan, and Lotan translates to Leviathan. And if you look at it, Baal is who Zeus is based on. Zeus was originally called Zeus Balaam. Zeus is based off Baal. And Lotan, which translates to Leviathan, is also who people believe Poseidon is.
Right.
So what I find interesting about this Baal cycle is Plato's ideas that Zeus was punishing the children of Poseidon.
Right.
And in the Baal cycle, you also get this idea of Baal defeating, or Zeus defeating Poseidon. And that's where Leviathan also comes from. So...
No, exactly. And that I'll touch base on with like Poseidon and...
Well, do you want to talk about the Poseidon stuff now, or are you saving it until we get to Atlantis? We can come back to it.
I'm kind of waiting until we get to Atlantis because there's a lot of visual stuff.
All right, I only got one more thing in my notes before we get to Atlantis. And this is something that just jumped out to me. I'm going to share this on screen with you real quick. And this might be nothing at all, but like... Milo goes missing. You know, they're getting close to Atlantis. They get attacked right before they meet Kita, and Milo is like knocked out, and he's got like this lightning bolt scratch on him with these big round glasses. And this is just dumb to me, but like I just thought like this is very Harry Potter looking. And is there a reason why the lightning bolt and the round glasses thing, is that also something where they both have a thing they're drawing from? And I've heard before that there was something there with the Harry Potter stuff. I did find this article which talks about Kabbalah and Harry Potter, and it's about the path of the lightning bolt.
Yeah.
And how the lightning bolt is what shoots through the tree of Kabbalah, which is a bunch of circles, and that the Harry Potter symbolism of the circles and the lightning actually is about the Kabbalah tree of life. And so, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of like 10 Sephiroths, 10 symbolism in the Atlantis story, 10 symbolism in this movie, 10 symbolism in the Kabbalah tree of life. Kabbalah is a big thing to Freemasons. So that might be a stretch, but like it just jumped out at me so much that Milo's got like this whole Harry Potter thing going on.
I didn't even think about, well, maybe because people might think it's weird. I've never watched, never read anything.
Never seen Harry Potter? Mm-mm. Yeah, you're not missing anything, in my opinion.
No, and I mean, like, I know enough of it just because people won't stop talking about it because it was so popular and still is. But I never had an interest in it.
Yeah, people who are live or die, ride or die fans of Harry Potter and Roblox, they just go in the same category for me. Of like, I'm good. Not saying Harry Potter sucks. I'm saying hardcore Harry Potter fans might be the worst fan group. Oh, leave me a bad comment. I don't care.
No.
So after this, I deserve it. I'm fishing for bad comments.
Oh no.
I just don't care. After this, we get into Atlantis. This is where the things get interesting. Go ahead.
Just like a tiny little tidbit, like that's the first time when he gets knocked out, she finds him, but she heals that cut with the crystal, and we'll come back to that. But that's
Edgar Cayce's whole thing. The personal crystals they wear around their neck or what heal people. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the first taste, besides obviously seeing people where they shouldn't be. That's the first taste of like something Atlantean happening.
Yeah, that's how you know that Rourke didn't win in real life, because otherwise, when you went down to the crystal store, and that girl with the hairy armpits that smells like patchouli sells you a crystal, it might actually do something. This is how you know Rourke didn't actually win.
Right.
But we get to Atlantis, and like one of the first things that happens is this whole, they speak a different language, we speak a different language, and it very quickly like morphs into, we all speak the same language now. Let's explain this really, really quick. And the way they do it is they talk about the Tower of Babel, how it was a root language, and that all languages were based off of this pre-flood language. And I don't know if this is exactly where he says, I think this might be where he says the line of basically like, well, God just became jealous of the Atlanteans, of the people at the Tower of Babel, and destroyed them because of that.
I don't remember if it was there or in the King's
Actually,
Chamber.
it was later. It was later.
But
he does say that quite literally, though. He's like, well, it's just because God became jealous of these people. God became jealous of the 10 Nephilim kings running the world, and
go figure.
whatever. But it's that whole like, it's again, it's taking the biblical idea of the Tower of Babel, and saying, actually, these are the people from before the flood, and these are the good people. Forget that like they were so wicked and corrupt and evil that God destroyed them in a flood. We're twisting the Bible on its head. We're recognizing the biblical story, like we did with Leviathan, like we're going to do with some other things, but we're going to just twist it. And this is why it's so insidious for kids, is like you just get all these movies that just are constantly twisting your view of God, giving you a Gnostic idea, and then telling you just straight up in like quick little lines like, well, these people, don't worry about the Genesis account. These were the good people. These are the wonderful people. It's the evil American capitalists that are the bad people, and the evil Christian West that's the bad people. And it's actually these pre-flood people. And it just takes the whole Tower of Babel thing and flips it on its head.
Yeah. No, it does. It does.
Yeah. Actually, it's in my notes. He does talk about the cataclysm after this. He says, the gods became jealous and sent a great flood. So it's again taking the biblical story, saying, who's the bad guy here? God's the bad guy here.
Well, that, and it's like they'll bounce between God and then gods plural. Right. So like, is it a pantheon? Is it not?
Right. Yeah.
And they bounce back and forth with that idea.
It's still the same message at the end of the day, though. Like, who caused the flood? Who destroyed the Tower of Babel? This is the enemy of the Atlantean people.
Right.
What did you have to say about them coming to Atlantis, though? Because the Atlantis part of this movie is the shortest part of this movie.
It really is.
And so, like, I feel like most of my notes are like leading up to the Atlantis part, and then at the very end.
Mine are mostly comparing like the movie to other sources I found.
Sure.
Getting there, it's you go to the Blavatsky theory of Atlantis, that it was submerged underwater. and yet they survived. So you still, when you get the visual, it's not clean circles like it was before they got wiped out. And then you have like, I don't know what I want to say next because there's just so much to unpack in such like that the short 30 minutes that they had there, or however long you said the rest of the movie was.
It's literally less than 30 minutes. Yeah, they're like
It's
actually in Atlantis.
So much, though.
We do get this interesting thing though. They go and look at this mural. This is another like divergence from the Atlantis that we think of. We think of like the Marvel comic books. What is it? Namor Atlantis and the DC Aquaman Atlantis, that they're all like mermaid fish people, right? Instead of like their civilization was destroyed by a flood, instead of like just place them as fish people that lived under the water for some reason. But in this one, they actually have to dive down into the water, which I found very interesting.
Yeah, and they can't breathe underwater.
And they come across this huge mural. And this mural, like, it's got a lot going on.
It does.
It's got these two like radiant giants. I think these are supposed to be the Lemurians, the people who came before the Atlanteans. They are the Nephilim, essentially, these giants on either side. They have this huge radiant star, and then these like 7 kings or 7 people holding up this star. I find this interesting because this star, if you look at it a few different ways, there's another picture of this. I think it see if I can bring this up. This is the image that I was trying to find. And in this one, we get a different, like a more complete version of this heart of Atlantis, this crystal that this mural is talking about, right? And I find this interesting because you get this, and if you look at just these big points, it's a 10-pointed star. A 10-pointed star would be like 2 pentagrams added together. You get the union of opposites. You also, like you said, the 10 circles, the 10 concentric rings, the 10 kings, like all this stuff with 10. Did you have more to say about that? But like before, I'll just say this real quick before you go.
Longer.
Okay. With this, like the 10-pointed star thing, if you look into the symbolism of 10-pointed stars, like I said, it is supposedly the union of opposites, which we get here with this like whole monad concept. You get the male and female pairs. You get the Lemurian, or what was the Hyperboreans, the Lemurians, or whatever, when they were still men and women connected together. This is also a concept of the monad in Gnosticism. It's also a concept of the ancient Egyptians, where the story of Atlantis came to Plato, which are called, I have them in my notes here somewhere at the end. It's somewhere. The Egyptian Ogdoad, which a lot of people think is where the monad came from, which is 8 pairs of male and female pairs. And then what's interesting about that is you have 8 masks here that circle this 10-pointed star.
Well, because like in the image you showed before, it was 7. Now this one's 8.
Right. That's what I find interesting. Is like I'm trying to figure out the number stuff, because you could also look at this and see these like little points sticking out here. And then it becomes a 16-pointed star, which is 8 and 8 masks, which would be 8, divided by 2 or times 2. 16 divided by 2 is 8, which is 8 pairs, which again goes back to this idea of the monad, which is this Gnostic idea of these male-female pairs that float above people in the sky, and they created everything. So like that's where the evil god was born from, out of the monad. That created the earth we live on, this prison planet that we live in, and that it's this whole Gnostic idea. But I'm not really sure where they're going for it. I can't tell how much of this movie, to be honest, is them drawing from a bunch of occult things and then just slapping it on the page and saying like, "This is cool because I read this in a blog or saw this on a thing." Like, I'm not sure how coherent it is,
right?
Or how much it's just like, here's a bunch of cool looking, Gnostic and occult symbols, and we just kind of threw it together. Kind of like the writing. It's like, I don't know.
No, I feel that. But
the 16-pointed star, by the way, is also known as the Vergina sun, which is an ancient Macedonian symbol. It's also the seal on the floor of the CIA is the 16-pointed star. So if it's a 10-pointed star, it's this as above, so below, merging of opposites, 2 pentagrams together. If it's a 16-pointed star, It's, could be about the Lemurian giants, 8 pairs of 2, the monad, the pairs of syzygies of male and female pairs. I don't know. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just like a cool looking crystal star.
Maybe they're like, oh, I need one more point to make it look even.
Well, it's like you said, that one, like the mural in the water, 7 kings and 2 Nephilim giants above this, radiant star, which is kind of like a flower shaped star, which is like this Freemasonic concept. And then on this page, it's either a 10 or 16 pointed star. Did you count the masks they circled around? Because this picture shows 8.
It's 10.
Right. That's where I'm getting at. Like, this is what's weird, is it should be 10, but this picture shows 8.
Well, and if you think about, because we don't know when the Shepherd's Journal was written.
Right.
We don't know when the mosaic was made. So it could be like slowly increasing with each passing of one of their kings. They could be adding one, or, they couldn't fit all 10 on the, I don't know. I'm just digging too far into it. But there is 10 kings.
Right, which is Plato's idea of Atlantis.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, Greek mythology with Poseidon.
Right. And as I was saying before, like, if this is the male and female pairs idea of the monad, what I find interesting is later on you see the crystal above the city. And it's the UFO that we saw in the beginning. It is a circle in the middle. It's a big glowing thing in the middle, and everything's spinning around it so fast it makes one continuous circle. That symbol is known as a circumpunct. It's often used to symbolize the monad from Gnosticism, and it could also be used to symbolize Saturn, which is very interesting. I don't know. We also, like, when they do go down to the cave, we see this monad, this thing in the sky, with all these kings circling around the crystal, making that circumpunct, looking thing. It glows blue and then red back and forth.
Yes.
Which often is like another stand-in for black and white, is in the duality. So there's like a whole duality thing. So I just keep getting this over and over and over again of this like Gnostic monad duality, male and female, the union of opposites with the keys, with like a lot of the symbolism in this.
No, exactly. Exactly. So they dive in the water, they pop up, and then he's like, oh, hey, look, I found the missing page. Or he had the missing page the entire time.
Yeah, Rourke was hiding it from him the whole time.
Yeah. And like, they're just in it for a payday because capitalism.
Yeah, this is the big capitalism bad speech.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then it kind of gets to, it's just building towards the climax. And like, I want to touch on the 10 Kings in just a second because there's like a little bit more before we get to that scene.
Go ahead, yeah.
So he basically was asking Milo, because he obviously knew that Milo was going to get more knowledge because that's what Milo wants. He just wants knowledge. He wants the fulfillment that way.
Right.
So that he was like, where is this giant crystal? And Milo's like, it's not just a crystal. It's their life force. Everybody's connected to this giant crystal. And there's only one person who knows where that is. And it would be the king of Atlantis, who is also blind at this point.
Right.
Because in the beginning scene, you'll see him cover...
He has spiritual sight, though.
Yes, it's all spiritual.
Because he does point out that Rourke is wearing a gun on his hip when he first meets him.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So if you pay attention, the king's eyes are white. So blind. But he can, like you said, he can still see the gun. And then Milo makes a reference of... I forgot the line. I just had it. Basically saying that the crystal is in the eyes of the king. So,
that is literally where Rourke and the A from Atlantis symbolism, the Eye of Providence symbolism, like combined into that one eye Illuminati symbol. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So then they figure out where it's at, and it's underground. So the king has hidden the crystal that's supposed to keep his civilization alive because it basically absorbed his wife. And once you go underground, that's when you see the masks spinning around it. And at this point, it's the 10 kings, 10 ancient kings.
Right.
So that would make Kita's dad the 11th. But with all the buildup towards the number 10, bouncing over to mythology, Poseidon had 5 sets of twins by a human. So
10 Nephilim kings and queens.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also the royal bloodline that the crystal has to draw from.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So 5 sets of twins, there's 10 past kings in these carved stones. And antediluvian origins, the time before Noah's flood, there's supposedly 10 generations between Adam and Noah. And then you have some people going, was Atlantis the Garden of Eden? So there's 10 in multiple spots. The 10 kings of the past, 10 sons of Poseidon by a mortal, and then possibly 10 generations between Adam and Noah. So they're just building up this reputation.
Yeah, king for each generation. It's just saying again that this is the days of Noah stuff. This is the and what I find interesting too is like it's not even fully disagreeing with it because the king is hiding the crystal below, and they've all lost their knowledge. They've lost their ability to thrive, and it's kind of like they've lost the hidden knowledge. That's what this whole movie's about. Kita literally goes to the initiate Milo to rediscover the hidden knowledge, which this whole thing is about. And so the Atlanteans hid away the knowledge because it could be used in bad ways. And this is the Freemasonic line all over again: is we can handle the hidden knowledge. You can't. You're the profane. We're the enlightened people. We have the enlightened texts. We have the enlightened way of thinking. And you, the profane, American capitalist system, can't handle this stuff. It's just kind of like hitting you over and over again, because the reason that they've lost everything, the reason their cities become ruins, they don't remember how to read their own language, it's because this is the consciousness. He literally says it's their consciousness. He's hidden it away underground. So there's a whole symbol with that there, that the ancient knowledge, we misused it. And then therefore only the Freemasons, the, initiated can handle that knowledge. And that's what this movie's basically saying.
Right. And basically when the king refused to give it to Rourke, he got shot. And then the crystal can't save him. I'm trying to see. And when the king finally confesses why he did that, he basically admitted that he wanted to use the crystal as a weapon. I think
the king literally says that he did use the crystal as a weapon.
Yeah.
And that's why this whole thing happened.
Exactly.
Right. So the next scene we get is Kita's ascension moment. This is where they go deep into the underground, where the ancient knowledge of the crystals locked away, the ancient secrets. And this is where Kita's eyes fill with light. This is her gnosis moment. This is when she has her Gnostic awakening. And she turns to Milo and says, "Be not afraid," which is her, again, mimicking lines from the Bible. And after this, she walks on water, which is like, there's a lot of people who've done a lot of miracles in the Bible. Like Jesus obviously fed the hungry, healed the sick, the lame, rose people from the dead. That's all been mirrored by other people. Walking on water is kind of unique to Jesus. Like Peter did for a minute, but he couldn't do it on his own. So like that, I just feel like her walking on water is one of those symbols, one of those like kind of blasphemous symbols, that idea that she can do it.
And then you get like this soft music playing in the background going like, oh my goodness, look what this woman is able to do. It's highlighting the divine feminine in it.
Right. This is where she literally becomes the divine feminine, because she walks
glowing
underneath of the circumpunct, the monad. She becomes one with the monad up in the pleroma, whatever Gnostic words you want to use for this. That's what it is. And what's interesting about this is she comes down shining, glowing.
Yes.
And if you know what the Rosicrucians and others call the ancient Nephilim kings, they call them the Shining Ones. So she becomes one of the Shining Ones because she is of the royal bloodline of Nephilim kings and queens, of Poseidon and whatever the ancient Nephilim kings of Atlantis. And this is where she kind of has that ascension moment, right?
Right.
And the king says that this crystal chooses a host, it chooses an avatar. They have to be of royal blood. and they take on the collective consciousness. This is a lot of Blavatsky's sounding talk as well. And like I said, this is where the king says that he used the crystal as a weapon of war instead of spiritual enlightenment, and that led to their destruction. That's Blavatsky's message coming right out of the king's mouth.
With that, it kind of plays off of her being the power source. Like she's stolen the power from it.
Yeah, there's that. And then there's this really there's this whole battle, and there's not like any interesting symbolism in the that I saw in the battle between like Milo and Rourke, the flying fish things and stuff. It's kind of a cool climax moment. But what I found interesting is when they come back to the city, you see all, Kida raises into the air. This is where she becomes the circumpunk. This is where she's like the glowing thing with the circle around it, right?
Right.
It's like this very Saturn looking symbol. And when she's doing this, all of a sudden the Lemurians or the Nephilim giants, they come up out of the water. They erect a dome over this flat earth prison planet, thing. Because that's what it looks like. Like Atlantis is this whole flat earth.
Flat earth.
It is though, right? Because the flat earth, and I know people will get mad at me for this, flat earth is the Gnostic symbol. The reason that they love pushing flat earth is A, it makes conspiracy theorists look stupid, and 2, it's getting people to accept the concept of the prison plan, of the Gnostic idea, right? And so you've got this flat earth surrounded by the Nephilim giants of old, and they erect a dome over the flat earth, right? And
it's a really pretty dome.
But you have the waters above and the waters below. Like literally it is the flat earth, right? Like it's literally the flat earth surrounded by a dome, which I find very interesting. And this is where Kida then descends down on a beam of light. This is Masonic mysticism. The divine truth comes down like a ray of light. This is more Masonic symbolism. And it ends with 8 people standing there as the saviors. This is the Egyptian Ogdoad, which is where the Gnostics got their idea for the monad from. This is the 4 couples, the 4 pairs of people that I think the monad's based on. And it kind of ends with Milo and Kida becoming the rulers of this thing. Milo takes on his first tattoo. It's that radiant star symbol again. It's the heart of Atlantis, radiant star symbol. And then Leonard Nimoy, the king. Do they give him a name? Is he just the king? I think it's just the king. I don't think they give him a name.
Oh.
Well, I'm calling him Leonard Nimoy because that's who voices him, right?
Or we could just call it Spock.
King Spock.
So just imagine him telling you how he managed to mess everything up as Spock.
Right. King Spock joins the Pleroma. He ascends into the air as the 11th king, which is interesting too, because if we're talking about how this relates to Kabbalah, you were saying 10 is a big thing.
Yes.
The Kabbalah tree of life is 10, except that the 11th chakra, it's 10 is like kind of the base. Like you get to the top, you get to that 10th chakra, that 10th part of the tree of life. Like to go to the 11th, which is talked about in all this stuff, is when you've finally completely broken free of the prison planet. It's where you've completely broken free of the physical. Right. And so when he becomes the 11th king and it descends up into this thing, it's basically like the 11th chakra concept of becoming fully spiritual, which is the idea of the Gnostics. So he's actually reached that. That's why the 11, I think, makes sense. I didn't even put that in my notes. It just occurred to me now.
No, that makes sense, though. Because I didn't even think about looking up 11, but it does have its meaning there.
Right. So that's kind of how the movie ends. It's got a lot of weird stuff. I'm not even sure if I'm right on all the symbolism, but I think a lot of that's because I'm not sure that the people who put it together had a coherent concept, or if they took a lot of occult ideas from early 2001 internet and kind of slapped it together. And that's how this feels to me. Like the symbolism's all there and I can explain it, but I'm not sure it's coherent because I'm not sure that everybody working on it was coherent, even though it does seem to have a lot of Freemasonic influence, like specifically Freemasonic influence.
Yeah.
Like, even so much as the credits, and then there's a video game that came out after this, and it's literally the video game covers as the Eye of Providence, like not hidden or disguised, just like the literal Freemasonic Eye of Providence thing. So
Yep. But so the only thing I took away different was the what did you call the guys that created the dome?
Oh, like the Lemurians?
Yeah, the Lemurians. I still see them as Gollum, which comes from
Oh, that's a
Jewish
good point, though.
mysticism.
That is a good point, though, because they are inhabited. Like,
Protectors.
instead of clay, they're machine, but like steampunk golems.
Yeah, exactly.
My wife said that they look like Iron Giant.
Oh, they do. That
Yeah.
was a weird movie. That was a
weird one.
But yeah, so my thing was they gave Gollum vibes because they don't talk, they don't have free will, and they have a very simplistic task, and that's to protect this portion of Atlantis.
Maybe you're right. Maybe they are just golems. And like, to me, it's just like they're giants and they seem kind of, like more ancient than but maybe you're right. Maybe they're just erected golems.
Yeah. Cause they don't have free will. They had one task, and it's to protect the city.
If Rourke would have just went and scratched out the letters on their forehead,
I'm just saying,
he would have won the day. My boy Rourke should have won in this movie. Instead, get that nerd, get the stupid nerd Milo and his stupid Freemasonic buddies defeating American interests.
Everything.
Gosh dang, this movie! I hate it when the bad guys win. And that's what we got.
Isn't that what Karate Kid is? Is the bad
guy wins in Karate Kid. That other kid, he works his whole damn life to be the best karate master ever. And then Daniel's son comes along in like 5 seconds, does an illegal move, and like doesn't get called by the judges for it. And that's why I hate the Karate Kid. I hate movies where the bad guys win.
Fun fact, never watched that one either.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I still know that.
Well, it's okay. If you missed the first one, they've made like 7,000 more.
I did watch the one with Jackie Chan.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
It wasn't good.
I won't. No interest. But yeah, like that's what I got for this movie. It's interesting. I'm glad we did it. I'm glad we covered it. Do you have any final thoughts on Atlantis before we wrap up?
Not like actual Atlantis. I think Jimmy Corsetti.
You think I think so too. I think he's onto something. I know we didn't go deep into his theory on this, but if you guys are interested in learning more about like where the real Atlantis was at one point, look up Jimmy Corsetti and his work on the rickshaw structure, I think is how it's called. I've met him before at CPAC. He's a great guy.
Still jealous of that. Because like, I don't remember if it was during COVID or around that time, but I was like binging everything he was putting out. And when he put out the video on the rickshaw structure, it lines up incredibly well with all of the accounts of Atlantis. So I do recommend that. It's a long one, but it's a good watch or listen. It's good.
Right. Yeah. So thank you, Jehssye, for joining me again. This was fun. We'll have to do this again sometime. Thank you guys for watching and listening to all that stuff. I'm going to be back. I try to put these every other week. This one I think is going to drop on Thanksgiving. So I hope you enjoyed this deep dive while you were digesting turkey. Good little fun thing for you to do on Thanksgiving. Maybe go watch the Atlantis movie with your family now if you want to. I will be back in 2 weeks, finishing up the trilogy that I've been doing with Elise on the Apocalypse trilogy with In the Mouth of Madness. So that's your fair warning. If you want to watch the movie before we cover it, go watch In the Mouth of Madness. We'll be back with that one. But until then, keep it real.